Good morning. It is Sunday, December 8th, 2024, and I am back in Ireland. Give you a little view. It's actually rather quiet right now. We had a big storm Friday into yesterday. Luckily, it seems like most people here are back with power, I hope, and not too much damage. I always forget the storms until I get here, and the intense wind, that comes with being on an island like Ireland. I don't know that I'm going to talk astrology. I really don't know what's going to kind of come out of my mouth. I just know I haven't been on here in 2 months, and I didn't want to miss the opportunity to take some time to just talk about this part of the season of the year and things we may or may not be experiencing, or things that maybe we should encourage ourselves to experience during this time. So the easiest way to just jump right in is, we've got 2 solstices, the winter and summer solstices. This is when we have what we call peak yin energy, which is here in the northern hemisphere, December 21st, and peak yang energy, which would be in June 21st, in the northern hemisphere. So one coordinating with winter, the other coordinating with summer. It would be flipped in the southern hemisphere. So at those times, those are great pivot moments where we are either, we're losing energy to a certain point, and then we turn the pivot and we start gaining energy again, or the opposite. We've been gaining energy, and then there's the pivot, and then we start losing. And when I say energy, I mean quite literally light. The energy, the solar energy that we get from our largest star here, our big fireball in the sky. So as humans, we've really lost touch with our connection to what this is supposed to be providing for not just the atmosphere and our plants and, fauna and, the food and things that we, need as our imperative resources. It's also what we need. We need our connection to the sun, and it is good to observe the seasonal aspects of that. So for instance, I am very aware of the sun because I've lived in Portland, Oregon for 7-8 years, where we don't get, a good part of the year, there's not a lot of sun coming out. I've obviously been here where there can be very small amounts of, the day where the sun may come out. And so I really prioritize every day making sure I get out and have a little bit of time with the sun at this time of year, because this is our vitamin D. This is our inspiration. This is our light in the darkest time of year. This is our light in the darkest time of year. We need to respect it. We need to respect the hours that the sun is above, lighting our lands. And we need to respect when it retreats down again and we have the opportunity to rest and sleep. This is our rest time of year. Truthfully, I would never normally be traveling like I did just this, this was very last minute. This trip came up. And I'll make sure a little bit about that because it's part of what I, want to encourage with all of us in our own processes. But, I can sit here and talk about all the astrological things that are happening right now to indicate we are really in a, major pivot as a species, a major pivot as a planet. We're major pivot as a society of countries that, are now having a very global relationship in ways that we're very interdependent on each other right now. When we have a war in one part of the world, those resources are affecting other parts of the world, obviously. So we've come to a point, with technology and our ability to fly and be in other places very easily and learn from people who've, always been on a particular land. We can learn their ways, but, if they were at some point isolated to that land, there's these very specific cultures and ways within the people as it relates to their relationship to nature, the sun. Ireland is an island where I've never met people people so connected to the land as they are here. It exists everywhere. Don't get me wrong, for sure. Especially I find in Europe, but there's a lot of pride here, and obviously beauty, and a lot of this island, the lands are for animals to graze, and it's just a different thing. Whereas like in the United States, we're limiting that to build infrastructures for humans. So we all have a different relationship to that based on how many people are in our population, based on our government structures, based on our cultural upbringings and rituals that are tied to our natural resources. So it's imperative that we start as a species to remember that and respect these moments of the year that are particularly important. We only get one time each year to get super quiet, to retreat, to reflect, to make sure that we are on the right path. You would never go exploring the world and not take moments to sit and go, okay, let's check the map. Are we actually where we said we were going to go? Are we going in a new direction? Do we need to make new decisions? This is how we need to treat our life. We are on a journey. Our life is a journey. And at different moments, we need to stop and reflect and say, am I being who I want to be? Am I going where I want to go? Do I have what I want to have? Am I appreciating what is around me right now? And if we don't do that, life slips by very quickly, and the quality of life, I believe, degrades. And you can't really know that unless you've seen otherwise. So a lot of people won't even realize that they're in that until they've expanded out into another way of being or living. And I have been consciously trying to model / put my life a little more on display these last couple of years, mainly to encourage others to do the same. Not to put your life on display, but to make the changes that are needed to allow your life to better respect the rhythms that you respect. I respect nature's rhythms, yet I was living a life running a private practice where I would be working 12, 14-hour days in the middle of the winter, because that's when everybody's the most depressed. And so I would be so run down, I'd have nothing left to share with my family during, the most magical time of year. I'd find myself regularly depressed for that week, kind of getting what I would call, and it's an interesting experience. I would have an amazing time because so many people would come in December, as an example, really full of gratitude for me and our work together over that year, bringing gifts. Like you would otherwise think it was like, wow, like this is special. It was. But the second I would get home and I'd be by myself, I would realize just how tired and burnt out I was from the sheer amount of things I was taking in, from my practice, and in trying to support others, but not always doing it with the best boundaries. And so I've been actively on a journey to get better boundaries with myself so that I can actively create the life that best serves me. Because if I do that, then I can best serve the people I'm meant to serve. And what I find so funny, and I popped up a little story about it, a few days ago, just thanking many of you, because a lot of you have really been engaged with my process here, specifically with Ireland. A lot of you don't even know what's going on with me here and why I'm here. We've got a lot going on in our family that I've been purposely keeping, private, and probably will continue to for a while. But when I tell you, our family life, in some ways this year has been kind of turned upside down, and it's really had me question a lot, about what I thought was, true in life, and what I thought was real and what wasn't real, and what I respect and what I don't respect. And in all of this revelation, meaning all of these things that have been revealed to us over this year, it's only made it more important where my focus needs to be within my family unit and how I want to be of support during this time, because there's a lot, and people I love dearly are, going through a lot right now. So, and I really want to be present for that, but I don't always know how to be present for myself first. So I'm just going to tell you quickly about this, how I got here, and I'm hoping it to be just a tad little inspiration for you in some way, that maybe in the rest of this month you can apply sort of the way I live into your life and see if any magic shows up. So I'll just say that I find this time of year to be the most magical time of year, where the light is disappearing, where we are more in our, inner worlds and spiritual worlds, and we're connecting with certain spiritual, or religious rituals that connect us to our roots. So, I mean, that's naturally a part of this, time. And again, like I said, I would not normally travel during this time because I deeply respect that. But about 2-3 weeks ago, a good friend of mine who lives in Australia, and we haven't seen each other in 7 years. We had been talking about it over a couple months, but she was really strongly considering coming to this art residency that I've returned to twice now for a third time. She's a screenwriter and filmmaker. She's got a beautiful documentary on Netflix about lion conservation. I mean, she's super talented. You're going to see a lot of me posting her photography on here because she's just amazing. So, but my point is, we don't get the opportunity to see each other a lot, and we have this very special relationship where we seem to return to each other when we are in some major transitions in my life. She was really there for me when I was going through a divorce, when I was making major decisions about my life about a dozen years ago, and she's just been a good support through that process. And she's been through a lot over her life, and I'll keep that private. But I hope that I've been as much of a support to her, as I can be, knowing that we are literally a world apart. She's, on a whole other continent in a whole other hemisphere of the world. So, with that said, she does make time, over in the States, but we don't get this opportunity very often. So, similar to my other trips, just things started to align that I wasn't expecting. But the thing that really pushed me over was just seeing how excited everybody around me was getting about the possibility of me coming back, even if it was just for a few weeks. And that was enough. It was enough to say yes, not knowing what it was about. And I still am not clear, but this morning some things were revealed to me for my own life that were important. And that's what I'm kind of encouraging all of us to look at in our lives, is how can we be a little bit more of a passenger and allowing the divine to guide us where we're meant to go. Allow us to suspend the need to have our lives so planned, to suspend the need to know how things are going to go. When we don't do that, we don't allow for magic. And for me, magic is what's keeping me alive. Magic to me is, and I'm not talking about, top hat rabbit, kind of thing. I'm talking about being connected to what sources you. Connecting to the thing that is trying to make the path of your life as much in flow as it can possibly be. The hardest part for humans is to shut this off, i.e. media, phones, technology that are keeping us completely distracted, and take some time in the quiet. Take some time in nature. Take some time, I'll explain this in a minute, to reflect. I've been through a lot this year, as almost all of you have. I don't know anybody that's not been through a lot this year. Our family had a lot of loss this year in our extended family, and not just pretty traumatic loss, I would say. We lost 2 children, a grandmother, all within one family unit to a fire. We lost another family member that was my age to a stroke. We've had many cancer diagnoses pop up within my extended family unit this year. And then, as I've said, just some other things that, some truth about our family lineage that's been, coming to the forefront very forcefully in the last 10 months. All of those things have really they've made me realize there's a lot I need to let go of and embrace for myself. And with a lot of, particularly the things I'm not really talking about, there's been a lot of anger I've had and frankly rage about it over the last, I'd say, decade of my life. It's been pretty profusely disturbed by oppressive institutions, like governments and things like the Catholic Church, and the role they've played over our history and the generational, intergenerational, and cultural ancestral trauma that we all are experiencing right now. And I believe it's this moment we're here to start really healing that so we can move beyond a world of war. We're at war with ourselves because we're not giving ourselves the space to duke it out within ourselves. I had a very key moment years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, with a mentor of mine, where I just remember saying, and I probably have said this in previous videos, but I just said, when are they going to pay? This anger and rage. When are they going to pay for what they've done to people? Not just my family, but in this country, probably half of the families in this country have been impacted by the Catholic Church's doings. And I realized as long as I remained in that vibration of anger and rage, and I would never get a full picture of my mission and my role in the healing process. And this land has been very, 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 very key for me. One of my hosts here, it was within the first week I was here in April of 2023. She really, and I get a little choked when I talk about it, because I think she really saved me from what would have been a really dark journey by reminding me that my journey and my grandmother's journey are two different journeys. They're related and they're involved, but I have to stay close to my own. I need to do my own healing work. And she was really pushing me to focus on my own creative process. And if you remember last year when I was here in April, I had done an installation with natural remains of the garden. I had gone, weeded out the garden, and I basically made a little art installation here on the land, and it was very therapeutic and a very, very poignant moment for me to be reminded that I'm not here to dig up other people's stuff, but I am here to heal how their stuff not being healed has not allowed me to heal, and really keep that in strong context. So I'm saying this because, it's been an emotional couple weeks for me. I've had a lot going on in the background. Again, that's probably why you see less of me on the screen. And I knew I needed some space. I had a session with a medium, actually here in Ireland, who I'm hoping to see in a week. But she had made the comment that I feel like you need to go out in a field and just scream. And it was when people say that, yeah, and I've done that sometimes in my car because it feels very safe. But for me to go out on a piece of land or go anywhere where someone might hear me and then actually get scared because they're hearing someone screaming, it takes a lot for me to actually take the time to do that. And I didn't know it was going to happen this morning when I came out to the land, but I came out into the land and I could immediately feel some emotion coming up, as you can hear it coming up in my throat right now. And I decided it was time to give it some space, give it the space it needed to release. And so before I say more about that, I just want to share that I'm a person who has worked with plant medicines. And I want to particularly talk about ayahuasca. I've worked with ayahuasca for well over a dozen years now. Probably close to 15, 20 ceremonies in that time that I've worked with it. And the thing about ayahuasca is that once you've worked with it, it's in your cellular body. At least that's what I've been told by the shamans I've worked with. And there's been moments in my life, not a lot, but it happens every once in a while, where Aya comes to speak to me and say, it's time for another release. You can hear it still. And what does release mean? I'm going to start walking just because the sun went behind a cloud and this rock is getting cold, so I apologize for any shaky movements with the camera for a moment. But Aya, as we call her, is a plant that is going to go to the place that needs release and bring it up. And when we release, we call it a purge inside of ceremony, and there's many ways you can purge. You can purge by crying, you can purge by screaming, you can purge by yawning, you can purge by vomiting, you can purge by defecating, you can purge by sweating. Anything that is coming out of your body, for women, a lot of the times that can happen with menstruation as well, where, they may start bleeding when they are releasing something. And so I've arrived here, and I'm going to be pretty vulnerable right now and share some of what's going on in my own health and just my own stage in life. But I had a major hemorrhage, uterine hemorrhage, about 6-7 years ago when I was in Oregon. And it's put a lot of attention on the womb in my life, the mother center in my life, and a lot of trauma now there, not just obviously in my lineage, that I know of for sure, but obviously in my own life, and that it tends to represent, I believe that hemorrhage was a part of some of this, my own purging within my lineage. Anyway, my cycle, as a woman who's now about 46, has been, because of things that I needed to do as a result of that hemorrhage. I was using what you call an IUD, if you don't know what that is, but it is a birth control, a form of birth control that's, put into the uterus to keep release hormones to control bleeding. And so we did that to just make sure that I wasn't going to have another one, because the truth is I almost died when that happened. And quite literally the ER doc had said, if I hadn't gotten there when I did, I might not have survived, because he's seen women bleed out on the table from the thing that had happened to me. It's been a process of healing this part of myself, and I didn't know all of the features that were a part of it, but this year of revealing so much truth that I've known has existed. I knew there were secrets in my lineage. I knew there were things we weren't being told. I knew there was always more to the story. And this year, so much has been revealed that on one level, it has created a lot of peace within me, and it's really affirmed this hunt I've been on in my life. But when you come through a year like this, I've now got to let go. And so since I've arrived, there's just been all kinds of things kind of going on with my physical body, on all levels. And I'm just going to say there's been a person. I came out to the land this morning with the expectation of maybe crying a bit and a scream here or two. But the second I tried to scream, I immediately went into dry heaving. And this is a bit like when I'm working with ayahuasca, it can, look like. It's lots of, I don't want to get into the details. It's obviously not a pleasant thing to visualize, but I immediately started to feel the need to vomit. Some did come up. A lot of tears came up. I started sweating a bit. I had to go to the bathroom. I was just all of my body just started quite literally wanting to release. And I was able to get a deep breath at the end of it that I don't think I have felt in 6 months. Really get a deep breath in my body that I could feel it all at the lower part of me, because something had been taking up residence in me, and it felt like it just got released. And I don't think I'm done, but I believe this is why I've been brought here this time around, is to finally peel back the physical layers within myself of all the stuff I've been looking to heal, and any way that it remains in my body, to allow me to start my own life without all of this I don't know how to describe it, but it's been an overwhelming experience most of my life, to be honest, to try to understand this. And I'm just finding myself really grateful for myself for knowing when I'm hearing a call and saying yes, even if it scares the hell out of me. How am I going to afford this? How am I going to, what are my, it's all the same questions that for any of us when we make a decision that's going to impact our lives in some way or impact others in our lives that we do. if I'm not of service to myself, I'm of no service to anyone else. And I'm just so grateful that I can hear it. And I say yes, and I show up. And then I allow the difficult moments to come through. I allow the purging to happen, as uncomfortable as that may be. And I do things that are uncomfortable. I think a lot of people see my life and they go, oh my God, like how does she do, like whatever. They just, I mean, obviously on social media we're not going to put the worst parts of our life all the time. We don't need more of that. We've got enough of it in our personal lives, right? But you must know that anyone who is really looking free in their life on the screen, really, truly, authentically free, there has been an immense amount of work being done behind that. And you're about to see a lot of people come forward who have been really working very hard on themselves because they know they're being put into the position to lead the rest of humanity through this experience, because this is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for people who have been unwilling to try a different way of living, who have a lack of faith in life, because all of the things that you've come to rely on as to have you feel secure are not going to, they're not going to be like that in the way that you know them anymore. And so to me, the biggest thing, sorry for any wind you're getting, because of course the wind's kicking up now, so I'm going to make my way back to the house. It's important to just keep that all in mind. And this is why these times of year are important, because if I had not given myself the space to say yes, if I didn't give myself the space this morning to go out to the land, if I didn't give myself the space to work through the fear of not having the money to do the things I know I really am meant to do, if I didn't walk through the fear of having to say no to relationships and friendships and people in my life that right now are not aligning with where I'm going, and it's very hard, never mind just the natural loss we experience in life that we all have to deal with. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up a bit, because it's going to get muddier as I get closer to the horses here. So I just would like to encourage you to slow down. Look at your life. Particularly look at this year, if you want to just keep it simple. Look at this last year and ask yourself, what did it teach you? How are you going to bring that forward? And is there anything you need to let go of right now while we have this beautiful, conditioned environment to serve us? Do you have anything you can release? You don't have to go out and to a field like I did and scream and yell and cry and sweat and purge. You don't have to do any of it. You don't have to do that. But you could say, I'm going to do one less thing on the calendar every day than I had intended to, and use that time to go walk. So anyways, that's what I got. All right, I see some people making their way here, so I'm going to cut this. I'm sending you lots of love. Mwah, mwah, mwah.